Alright guys and girls, Shawty's back in the goddamn house, and today we're going to be talking about PO4, aka phosphates. Now phosphates in a reef tank are basically the opposite to not bad. Kind of like Michael Jackson, except without the leathers and the chains. Now in case that got a little bit confusing, phosphates are bad, plain and simple. They basically fuel algae. And algae can grow all over your tank and rocks and make it look like shit. Now, there's good algae and there's bad algae. Basically, the bad algae is the green stuff. Good algae is the purple stuff. That's called coralline algae. Now, coralline algae does not need phosphates to grow, whereas the green shit-looking stuff does. Excuse me. Now, there's organic phosphates and inorganic phosphates. Now, I'm not really going to get into that. One, because you don't need to know, and two, because if I did, I'd probably fall asleep and start dribbling all over myself. And I'm going to save that fun job for later. Now what you do need to know about phosphates is how they get in your tank in the first place. And the first way is through tap water. And the second way is through that stuff that you put in your mouth and comes out in your bottom. It's food. So now that you know all that you ever really need to know about phosphates, the main thing is, how do we stop them getting in our tank? And how do we deal with them if they're in there? Rule number one is we don't use tap water. Tap water can contain phosphates, so why would we risk putting tap water into our tank and basically sticking them in there in the first place? We use RODI units, which is reverse osmosis deionized water. But again, if I go into the whole process of that, I'm going to start dribbling again. So, bottom line is no tap water, only pure water. Now rule number two is we don't put large ribeye steaks in our tank either, because that is going to push up the phosphates, and that would be overfeeding our system. But I am going to say this, we do want to feed our tanks as much as we can humanly get away with, because we want to keep these fish nice and fat and plump and healthy. So the problem being is the more food we stick in there, the more phosphates are entering into our tanks. Which leads me on to my most important rule, which is rule number 3. Phosphate media! Phosphate media is basically something we put in our tanks and allow the water to pass through it to take all the phosphates out of the system. Now you need this. I personally didn't have a phosphate reactor when I first started, and if you look back at some of my earlier videos of when I built my tank, you're going to see about 6 to 8 months in my tank ended up looking like shit. I mean, it really did. It looked like a kind of underground sewage system, and that's definitely not what we want in a reef tank. Now the final thing I'm going to say about phosphates is they can be pretty annoying. They can basically stick to all the rocks in your tank and start leaching phosphates back into the water over a period of time. The other thing is that crappy algae that's going to make your tank look like shit is also consuming the phosphates. So when you go to test for them, it's going to look like, I've got low phosphates, so I haven't got a problem. But that's not true. The bottom line is, you need to get yourself a nice big reactor with lots of media in it and change it out every 2 months religiously. If you do that, you're just not going to have a problem. You're going to have lovely rocks with no algae on them. I personally don't even bother testing for phosphates anymore. It's one less thing I don't have to do. So basically, get your reactor, change out the media every 2 months. It's peace of mind. You're going to have lovely coralline algae, and that horrible green algae can go suck a dick. So now you basically know everything you need to know about phosphates. Now in my next video, I'm going to talk about temperature and salinity. Now if you've got any questions, put them below, rate my videos and subscribe. Now I'm off to take a huge shit, so this is Shawty L signing out.